Utah politics.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Glenn Mills. It's time to go inside Utah politics. We do begin today with Troy Williams, the Executive Director of Equality Utah. Hello, Troy.
Hey, Glenn. Great to be back with you.
Great to have you on the show. Let's get right into it. I'd like to know, from your perspective, the state of the LGBTQ community here in the state of Utah. I know you're very optimistic about the plan that the new governor has rolled out. Talk about that.
Yeah, it was unexpected, but not surprising from Governor Cox and Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson. They rolled out a One Utah roadmap that really outlined their ambitious plans for the first 500 days in office, and we were delighted to see that in this document, they talk about expanding opportunities for LGBTQ Utahns. They talk about expanding mental health access to LGBTQ Utahns, and it's truly historic for a Republican governor. We haven't seen this kind of inclusion before, and it really makes our hearts really warm, and it really sends a message to LGBTQ people throughout the state that Utah is our home, that we belong here.
Specifically about youth, we really worry about them on a mental health standpoint. How are LGBTQ youth in Utah doing?
Again, I want to give kudos to the state of Utah. Last year in the fall, the state released the LGBTQ suicide prevention plan. The state is now talking to young people who are gay and transgender and asking about their lives and developing policies and plans that help them feel a sense of belonging and inclusion.
So is it working?
Well, I think so. We still have challenges, obviously, but the greatest thing that we can do to help reduce suicide for young people is to cultivate a deep sense of belonging. That's the most important protective factor that we know of. And so to have Governor Cox signal to young LGBTQ kids that you belong in Utah, that we see you, that we want you to thrive, that is a positive message that's really, I think, going to save lives.
You became very frustrated with the governor and even the lieutenant governor at the time, who is now our governor.
Yes.
Recently. Are you beyond that?
Absolutely. You know, in politics you have conflicts, you know, and you work through them. And I did have conflicts with them before, but I got to give I talked to Governor Herbert before he left office, and I was joking with him. You know, back in the day, it was Herbert v. Kitchen in the historic marriage equality case that actually brought marriage equality to the state of Utah. And over the past 6 years, Governor Herbert, I believe, has signed about 5 pro-LGBTQ bills in this very conservative legislature. And I was joking with him that he may go down in history as the governor to sign the most pro-LGBT bills in the state. So we're optimistic. We've worked through some of these problems, and we know that we can work together to make Utah a better state for all of us.
Okay, let's dig into policy on a national level. We've seen President Biden come in right off the bat, reversing the military ban. And I know you see that as a good step, and you are in support of that. But here's what I want to ask you. What good does it do to go from one executive order to the next every time the White House changes party?
You're spot on there. Yes. So having President Biden release these executive orders, it sent a signal to LGBTQ Americans. I see you. I care about you. You belong. And that's awesome, and we love it. I'm so grateful. Reversing the transgender military ban really reverses a great injustice for our service members who really love our country and want to serve. But you're right, we don't want to play executive order ping pong for the next 2 decades. The next president could reverse these orders with a swipe of a pen. And so we've got to figure out how do we on the federal level create enduring federal robust protections for LGBTQ Americans. Because right here in Utah, we have non-discrimination protections in housing and employment. But if someone from Utah moves to Idaho or Montana or Arizona, they lose those protections. So we need our delegation in Washington, D.C. to get to the table and figure out how to actually draft enduring federal protections.
And you believe Senator Romney could play an important role there.
Well,
talk about that.
Yeah, I hope so. So right now, the Equality Act is being debated. It passed the House and it's waiting in the Senate, but it still requires 60 votes to actually pass. So we've got to bring Republicans on board. Democrats can't just muscle it through. So that means that we've got to we've got to talk to each other. And we have to develop a bipartisan plan, a bipartisan strategy. Otherwise, the culture war is just going to keep raging in our country. We talk a lot about unity. We talk a lot about healing the divides in our country. Nothing helps heal the divide more than collaboration. And when people come together with goodwill and open hearts, they can create change. And I would like to see Senator Romney. We've had many disagreements on many different issues. We still do. But he has shown a willingness to sort of step out and be a leader on really important issues. He spoke out and he marched with people during the Black Lives Matter protests over last summer. And he really took a lot of heat from his colleagues by speaking out about the excesses and the abuses of the last administration. So we'd like to continue that conversation and see if Senator Romney can be a statesman to help bring people together to help get these federal protections passed.
Okay, we've seen a huge shift in this in the state of Utah over the last few decades, no doubt about that. You kind of alluded to that. Do you believe, you've worked with other members of our delegation, do you believe that they are reflecting that same shift that we see here on the state level?
I hope so. We've had long conversations, not all of them obviously, but I certainly have a lot of hope in folks like Congressman Curtis and Senator Romney. And I've had one conversation with our new Congressman Blake Moore. I like him, and I think he's someone that we can really engage with in the future. But Utah has really set the model. In 2015, we brought people together and we did something that no one thought possible. We brought stakeholders from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we brought Republicans, we brought Democrats, we brought liberal groups, LGBT groups, we brought them together and we crafted protections that protected everybody in housing and employment. And we proved that equality isn't just a liberal value or a conservative value, it's an American value. And we can work through these difficult issues together.
I remember covering that in 2015, a huge day when it was signed into law. Okay, the state legislature in session right now, a couple of bills you're watching here. We have about 1:30 left, so let's get through those as quick as we can. HB 92 would prohibit any transgender procedure on a minor. You are against that?
Absolutely. This is a wave of legislation that's coming from a viciously anti-LGBT organization called the Alliance Defending Freedom, ironically so. These bills have popped up in state houses all across the country. It really would put the government in between a patient and a doctor and would prohibit doctors from treating transgender children. And these kind of policies are harmful. They're in violation.
And real quick, that's even with parental consent?
That's absolutely correct. This bill is opposed by the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Medical Association, the American Psychiatric Association. Every single major mental health organization in the country are opposed to these bills.
Okay, Troy, one more. It's not numbered yet, but it's in the works. It would be a sports ban at, say, the high school level.
Yeah, so Representative Kira Berkman has introduced this bill. We haven't had a chance to really engage with it. The problem is, it is a blanket ban on transgender children participating in sports and actually gaining all the wonderful things that come from participation. Teamwork, building self-esteem, building friendships and camaraderie. So these bills have been drafted in isolation. The LGBTQ community, the transgender community, were not invited to the table during these bills. It really truly violates the spirit of the Utah way that has really guided us in the past few years.
Okay, we will see how these play out. Troy, always appreciate your time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Still to come, battles within the Republican Party. What to make of the lines being drawn? Our panel will debate that a little bit.